So I'm tired, very tired, exhausted, drained. Ugh, just because, well, I'm not gonna say. Just very, very crazy stuff, and getting little sleep can be annoying. It really can. But, I'm days late with the AEW Dynamite, well, February 12th, and I have to keep in the schedule. I have to keep doing what I need to do. So, this video is going to be up today, along with my takeover reaction, and I'm going to get to watching New Beginning in Osaka tonight, too. So, this should be a bit fun. This should be this should be a very, 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 very stressful night tonight. Or stressful next several days. Boy, oh boy. But, gotta do what I gotta do. You had a recap of last week of what happened on Dynamite. You had tag team title match start off. You had Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus SCU's Kaz and Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. But first, Dark Order did their message. It was so. I'm never gonna get interested in the Dark Order, no matter what. It's never gonna work. You're never gonna get me interested in them. They were preparing and waiting and blah 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 and whatever. And then Chris went to the back because he's been dealing with Dark Order trying to recruit him and all that stuff. But the tag team match was an amazing opener for sure. One of my favorite matches in AEW right now. It was a tiny bit better than it was on the cruise. Than the one on the cruise. It was great action, great chemistry, and though the rope thing did confuse me with Kaz grabbing onto the rope at the end of the match, although the match was already over, it was settled. It was a great tag team match. An amazing opener. And after the match, you had all the tag teams come out with the Dark Order, Best Friends, Butcher Blade, TH2, Young Bucks. Just those guys coming out and doing a little bit of a spot for the brawl, for the tag team battle royal, which is next week. You had a breakdown of what's happening tonight. You had Jim Ross interview Santana, and Santana told a little bit of a story, talking about he was broke, no job, no direction, living in the basement in the Bronx. He called his father at 3:30 a.m. because, dealing with a lot of stuff, and then just needed to talk to somebody, and he called his father, and his father answered. And then he mentioned that his father was blind. He's been blind since he was 14, and he lost his father at on New Year's this year. So, rest in peace to Santana's father. Just a very sad story indeed. Just very sad to hear. You don't want to hear anything about losses because, dealing with a loss, it's very hard. It's very hard, and you got to. It's just so many emotions. It's so much emotions. But, it was just crazy. And he talked about his reality, his pain and hurt. Jim Ross tried to put blame on Jericho. I feel like Santana should blame Jericho for this because he stabbed Moxley in the eye. And then Santana said John had the opportunity to build his own future and to join Inner Circle. And now he's built his own coffin and John will be in the dark. And you just know, I just think Santana is great. He should be given more time on the mic. He's got he's got a whole lot of skills that he just showcased in that one interview. Great interview. Great interview by Jim Ross, in all honesty. You had Dustin versus Sammy, which was up next, but Darby Allin uploaded a video basically saying, and I quote, "Smashing my throat with the skateboard, you made a big mistake. Sooner or later, I'll find you. But in the meantime, Sammy, you busy? You busy at Revolution? Hit me up." Darby is amazing. That's a great promo. Just no words, just wrote his stuff on a piece of cardboard and just let it out. He just did it. He just did it. Great stuff. So basically he challenged Sammy Guevara to a match at Revolution. Maybe Sammy's accepted already, maybe not. But you had Dustin versus Sammy Guevara. Pretty good match. Dustin's great for his age. Sammy's got a lot of things. Does a lot of good things in the ring. Proven versus potential. That's all I can honestly say. It was a great match with Dustin winning, of course. By the way, Kenny and Adam did retain their tag team championships. Oh man! And then, Dustin went out on the mic. He called out Jake Hager calling him, in quotes, Jericho's bitch, turned him and told him to turn around. And then he wondered if Jake is really a wrestler or Brock Lesnar, just a lazy guy, just a lazy bastard. Um, it just says Jake's failing in MMA, but he's really undefeated. And, he's failing in AEW before he got started. He's been booked as a beast. And challenged Jake Hager to a match at Revolution. He told Jake to walk to the ring if he accepted, and Jake didn't. He walked to the ring, but he didn't go into the ring. But the match is on for Revolution, though still, even though Jake didn't really accept it. But, whatever. You had a recap of Yuka versus Britt. You had Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone doing their thing again. And, Schiavone asked the question, how can you justify what you did to Yuka, to Britt, which is a basic heel question to ask. Basic question to ask a heel. But she says she stayed true to her ethical and legal use as a dentist. The tooth in the back was bad, had bad decay. And was just speaking in just smart talk. Nerd talk, I should say. I'm a nerd too, but video game nerd. But this is very, 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 very scientifically nerdy in a way that has to deal with dentist talk. Great stuff. And you also had, she said the tooth needed to come out, and she did her a favor for free. And, she basically called Yuka a wanderer, and that Yuka doesn't have health insurance. Kind of racist because, bad teeth. I don't know what people say about Japan and their teeth, but kind of racist. I don't know. Tony, but she mentioned how Tony has health insurance, and then you got Tony Champ for him, and then Tony asked her thoughts on the women's title match. She predicted a great match, and at the end of the day, they're still number 2 to her. And then she gave Texas a big burn by saying, I'm seeing a lot of confusion and these chubby Whataburger faces. Whew. That's a good one. I'll give Britt that. That was a good line. She says she's a role model, smart as fuck, and the first woman to sign to AEW, so this is her division. It sucks. And she made a statement, and then his Whataburger chant, and then she walked backstage. You had Nyla Rose versus Riho for the Women's Championship. This was a great match. I gotta say, finally, a great match with the women's title on the line after very, very bad disappointments, except for the first match for the women's title. But this was a great match, and, I was a little tired trying to watch this, but it was still impressive to see, indeed, with Nyla Rose becoming the first transgender female to win a world title in wrestling. It was a fantastic moment. It's just basically breaking down a lot of barriers and borders, just saying you can do anything. Anybody can do anything. And Nyla Rose did what she did. And now she's the first ever. She should have been the first, period. But, they gave it to Riho, who had a disappointing title reign, really. That's all I'm going to say. And now you got Nyla Rose, who is a beast, a real beast, and is strong, is really strong. So they're going to book her strong, of course, because she's a women's champion. You got to give her a long title reign, in all honesty. You can't give her this weak title reign. You got to give her at least 6 months to a year with the title. And, whoever it is that comes up to her, it has to be a worthy opponent. It just can't be someone random. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, suck it, transphobic haters. Yeah, you guys suck. You had an Inner Circle interview with Chris Jericho being referred to as Mr. Jericho, who had big news, saying Moxley proved that he was a piece of trash for stabbing Santana in the eye. Jericho also did that. It made Jericho sick that he was giving John a title match, but he'll do it because he's an honorable man. He's a god amongst gods. Respect that. And, if John survives next week and if John survives tonight against Ortiz, or Santana, I should say, next week, he faces Jeff Cobb. I think this should have been, and then this week, Santana's going to take John to the darkness. And that Jeff is gonna take him through the tour of the islands, and he'll see him in hell, even though he thought he was gonna see him in the inner circle. This should have honestly, in my opinion, should have been saved for next week or until later tonight, because saying it now doesn't make it impressive. It just makes it a bit of a big behind. It just makes it a big spoiler. In all honesty, it just makes it less effective. And you had a Jeff Cobb promo, and then you had a recap of Cody's lashing. And then Brady was on commentary for MJF versus Jungle Boy, which was a good match with a typical heel finish with MJF using the ring to get a win. And MJF is an amazing heel, and Jungle Boy's got a lot of potential to become a huge star in AEW. Basically, in wrestling, period. A lot of potential. This was a good match. Just really can't find a bad match, really, until I get to the main event. And then you have Wardlow attack, and then, Luchasaurus and Marco just came out to try to help, but it was too late. Too late. You had Pac do a promo. He was walking in the street. Word on the street was that Kenny is done. He has been a shamble of who he once was, and has not been the same since he got choked out in Chicago. He says Pac says he understands why Kenny's self-confidence been shot. He neglected his friends. That all of his problems are caused because of Pac himself. Pac called himself the best, and that Kenny knows the depth of Pac's conviction, and that Kenny's scared of Pac, or that's what Pac says. And then he finally gets his rubber match in a 30-minute Iron Man match in 2 weeks. That's going to be a great match, and Pac is just awesome. That's all I'm going to say. He had a breakdown what's happening next week with the Battle Royal and everything. He had a breakdown with a new tag title match. Lucha Dragons, or Lucha Bros, Lucha Bros versus the team of Adam and Kenny for the tag team titles. That's going to be a fantastic match. I'm only going to say that once. You had an Iron Man match in 2 weeks. You got Dustin versus Jake Hager, confirmed for Evolution. And then you had Santana versus John, which was eye for an eye. And I feel like if you had this kind of match, you should have a stipulation. That's all I'm going to say. It should have been a stipulation. It started off in the crowd, and then, ended in the ring. If you're going to have this kind of match, you got to have at least a stipulation of at least no disqualification or anything goes. It can't just be a typical one-on-one match at all. No. John won, and this was basic. It was a basic match. It was nothing to gain for those two, and nothing to lose either. And then you finally had, or attacked by Ortiz and the rest of the inner circle, and then Jeff Cobb came out and hit John with the tour of the islands. Again, I honestly feel like this should have been saved for next week. But I know a lot of people are going to disagree and say this was a good surprise, because people like that. People did like it in a way, but I didn't. Maybe because I'm tired and I have a different opinion, and maybe because I'm trying to rush through this video a little bit, but that's how I feel. But 8 out of 10 for AEW. This was a great show. Didn't have much problems with it except Jeff Cobb not being saved for next week in a way, because that would have been cool, or not mentioning Jeff Cobb until like later in the night, because then you just felt like, oh, he's in the arena, and then it's just it was a wasted opportunity. That's all I'm gonna say. But I'm gonna end this video. I'm gonna get down and watch Takeover Portland. I'm gonna react to that. I'm gonna post my reaction video later, and then I'm gonna go watch New Beginning until I maybe fall asleep. Until then, I'm gonna talk to you guys in a little bit after Portland, so be sure to stay tuned.